Hello and welcome to Designer by Designer, IALD's new series of one-on-one interviews with and by lighting designers around the world. My name is Beatrice Bertolini. I am the IALD UK coordinator, and I'm joined by Stephen Wolba, the coordinator from the Toronto chapter. Together, we are excited to welcome you to the 11th interview in this series with Maida Hot, Associate IALD, and Marcel Dion, IALD. Before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsors. The Designer by Designer series is made possible through the generous support of our platinum level sponsors, Axis Lighting, Cooper Lighting, Lutron Electronics, and Lumelpulse. Our gold level sponsors, including Airco Lighting and Luminai, and our silver level sponsors. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Maida Hot and Marcel Dion for the 11th interview of IALD's Designer by Designer.
Hi. Hi, Marcel.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Ready for a little bit of a chat this afternoon, evening?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Well, pleasure to meet you as a fellow lighting designer. It's always fascinating to find out what we like lighting odd people think about other things and life and what brought us in this position. So I just I suppose it would be quite good to know sort of a little basic stuff like a little your main responses to sort of these mundane questions like teamwork or solo.
I have to say solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cold or warm?
Warm.
City or
But
country?
color temperature.
Okay, color temperature.
But I do like the outside temperature, Celsius and cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So that's proper lighting design answer.
Yeah. There we go.
Never think cold and warm is so simple.
The same.
What about city or country?
Both.
Okay. No choice. Wine or beer?
I have to say both as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I have to pick something more extreme. Okay, let's go to possibly lighting design edge question. White or color?
White.
Okay. Light or shade?
Shade.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say both. Day or night?
Night.
What about sea or mountains?
I actually have to say more neither, but a lake. So a body of water. Yeah.
Okay. Something to the water. What about paintings or sculptures on art side?
Paintings. I like more paintings.
Okay. And the last type, not least art. What about rock or pop?
Like music?
Yeah.
In the rock, yeah. More rock, alternative rock kind of stuff.
Okay. All right.
Although
Well,
there's some that go into the pop music, which like one of my favorites is like Elton John actually.
Okay.
So he's a old rocker, but he's also popish. I don't know.
He covers all the bases, yeah.
Yeah.
He had enough years to cover everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds like another interview then. So I suppose going back to sort of your roots. Where are you from?
I am from Welland, Ontario. It's a small town near Niagara Falls. Everybody knows where Niagara Falls is, but Welland is basically the canal system between the two Great Lakes in southern Ontario.
So do you think Niagara Falls sort of inspired you in any way?
No, not really. No.
Too close.
Yeah, it's just too close. Yeah.
So what inspires you?
Well, well, I do like other. I guess in the past I liked like astronomy and aeronautics and things like that, and that really, and even today, like I'm even more interested today, and I find it pretty fascinating just looking up at stars at nighttime. So I do like the night, shade, things like that. And I think through the years, I've made a connection through, just what's out there in space, and actually lighting itself. It's pretty basic, and what we see is all light. Everything is light, and just the study of the cosmos and how far things are and how old that light is that we see through our own eyes is, I think, for me, it's amazing. Billions of years ago, these light just traveled through space, and now we see it now. We know that our sun takes 8 minutes for light to come here, and so kind of all those aspects really is interesting to me. So I find kind of a two-way thing. I find the inspiration of light itself through like space sciences, but also I guess the goal of precision. Just going to space is so very difficult, and everything has to be very precise and takes a lot of time. So actually, I try to use that in my work as well. Like, take your time. Things that has to be precise. So when you create a solution in your work, it's also kind of reflected that way. So I kind of bring in that whole aspect of it to my work, and it's thrilling. It's just nice to see things through a telescope. It's kind of awe-inspiring.
It's quite cool that actually everything is measured by light. That the whole sort of knowledge about a lot of sort of background knowledge on the universe is, by monitoring the light and
Exactly.
anything to do with it. So it's like, it tells you everything.
Everything, exactly.
Yeah. What about, was that something you wanted to be when you were growing up? Was it linked to stars, or you developed the interest later?
Yeah, no, I liked it when I was pretty young. For me, it was space shuttle missions and things like that through school, astronauts and flying. So I really liked that when I was younger. Like, being a fighter pilot or an astronaut was kind of something I was trying to achieve. Again, very difficult. And in a small town, sometimes it's a little difficult to kind of achieve that. But yeah, it's been with me through these years, and I'm teaching my son the same thing, and just looking through the telescope and seeing what's out there. And yeah, maybe you'll be the next one. Maybe you'll do something that I could do.
Cool. So how comes from the stars and astronauts you ended up studying interior design? Where did that come from?
Yeah, it was all through, I think, learning what astronauts had to do was actually pretty interesting, because they had to know so much, right? They had to be physicians, they had to be engineers, they had to know how to fly. They really needed a lot of skills and a lot of mechanical things. Like, they actually had to fix a lot of things in space. So when I was young, taking woodworking classes, taking machine shop, things I had to build was actually very beneficial today. So I kind of went through those stages and really enjoyed it, especially metalwork. Metalwork is it's very hard material, and it takes a lot of time, and you need very high precision. And through those kind of courses, going through engineering, which I didn't really like too much. And then I found my way into some design courses, and then I learned what interior design was. And it was like more like architecture, and you have to know how to build things, which I liked. And that's how I kind of sneaked my way through interiors after a few years of college, trying to find something I would like to do through my life.
And then lighting.
And then lighting came afterwards. Yeah, about 5 years. Well, actually, through school, I remember just learning very little about it. And I was more sensitive to the light itself, just because my eyes were a little bit more sensitive to light. So so I was, I was looking at it a little bit more in detail. So it took a few years interiors to, do a little bit of design work in interiors, but really it was only until I learned what lighting design was that I was going to pursue it in some form. That I don't know. I didn't know at the time.
So what was your first project then? Like when somebody, a company you worked for, entrusted you, what was the first project?
Oh, it was a conference room, actually. Yeah, just a very small, basic conference room. I remember it was just fluorescent, big trough lights, and that was it. And I said, we can, do something else for sure. We had levels of light. So I figured out that you can have different levels and dimming and layering. So lighting a wall and in some other fashion, which I remember, yeah, that was kind of my first attempt, I would say, to do something with lighting.
And so that was the first, and then sort of, I suppose, progressed. And then how did you feel to be like in charge of all that yourself, like to be telling other people? I suppose it's normally teamwork, but like to be in charge of like what really your role in a project is, and sort of initiating the teamwork and like being a captain of the lighting project.
Yeah, that took a few years. Going to New York was the first step, and then having them rely on me on some projects and giving me more responsibilities actually, really helped the confidence of, yes, I made the good choice of continuing in lighting, and yes, it was a good choice to move, to a different city. And it was, I mean, I think the background of interiors for about 5 years and through school was about another 5 years. So I had, 10 years of kind of different experiences before I really jumped into lighting. So I think that really brought more, I think the confidence of, yeah, I can, I know how to produce work, I know how to do drawings and communicate, and the processes, the daily processes of an office really, really helped me to take charge a bit. And I knew, the work came out and it looked good. I was satisfied. I was pretty happy.
So when did you decide to set up your own practice? So what was the sort of, in that string of events, sort of part of that?
Yeah. So the practice, well, we moved, my wife and I moved back over almost 12 years ago now, back home to Toronto, where we were based from before. But we didn't know each other. That's a different story. But it was, we moved back, and she had a job and everything was ready to go. And I was thinking of going back into interiors a little bit, and maybe interiors and lighting at the same time. I was sure someone could actually use these skills, because again, you need lighting on pretty much every project out there. But it took some time to kind of figure out, what's Toronto and what the lighting is in Toronto. And it was just one reference to a project. It was a residence. And from there, I said, hey, why don't I just start a little consulting thing, and maybe, I'll do another project, and then another one, and then 4 more. And then it just continued that way for the last 11, 12 years now. And it was just pretty much something that Toronto needed. Someone else to kind of help around and push and collaborate throughout.
So in your sort of career, can you actually say whether you prefer interior or exterior lighting input? I mean, do you have like a clear preference between those two?
Yeah, I like exterior lighting. Lately, last 6 years, it's been, still about 50-50, but it's been more on the more projects on the exterior portion. And exterior, again, the variety is pretty amazing, from parks to pavilions and parks and things like that. Facade lighting, a lot of site planning for new development, especially in Toronto. There's so many developments. And facade lighting. I've been fortunate to do a lot of heritage facades in the city, and which is good. We're keeping the heritage portions in Toronto as much as we can, and we want to actually celebrate and light them up. So it's been great. I think there's an area that Toronto actually didn't have too much lighting on the exterior in the city itself. And especially like good kind of thoughtful lighting. It was more utilitarian lighting, street lighting, things like that. And so I definitely, for sure, prefer. I do like the exterior portion. And now these days, the complexity of especially here in Toronto, bird migration and dark skies and all those elements really is pushing different applications, different approaches to lighting facades. So, reducing the uplights and reducing, quantities and light itself to achieve the same thing. It's every day. It's new. It's kind of interesting.
So can you say that you have a favorite project or a favorite few projects? Is it something that you sort of feel strongly about from your experience?
Yeah, for sure.
You can say.
No, for sure. It has to be. So I did a bridge back in Welland about maybe 5-6 years ago. I can't. Oh, it's too long ago. But
your hometown, yeah.
Yeah, in my hometown. Yeah. So the bridge is kind of an older heritage bridge built in the just 1900s, 1920s, I'm not sure. So it's a kind of a metal structure bridge. It was an old lift bridge that was decommissioned many, many years ago. But it was just a coincidence that I met an architect from Welland at a trade show, and we're just talking, it's conversation. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm from Welland. Oh, I'm from Welland too." And there's like, we're looking at illuminating the bridge, the heritage bridge there. And I was like, get me involved. I'll come down and just, introduce myself, because of course, lighting a bridge is not as simply as attaching something to it. And it's from my hometown, and I was like, I gotta be involved somehow. And so they did call me. It was a great meeting, and I produced one rendering shot of what it could be, and they were sold right away. And then the work began on trying to illuminate it in a very tasteful approach that's programmable, that reflects the city, and really bring it up to like it was a small town of 50,000 people, and normally a bridge of this kind of caliber is for the big cities, right? Like Toronto. And they don't get that there. And of course, Niagara Falls, 20 minutes away, always gets the big shows. And so it was special when they unveiled it. It was on Canada Day, actually. So like Canada Day here is tomorrow. My family was there, and we can see the bridge from my parents' home. And the most special really is my grandfather and my grandparents who are still alive, and they were able to see some of my work in Welland. And so I think that one has to be the best. And I don't think I could top it either, because it's too close to home and very emotional to it.
Finally, your family figured out what you do.
What's that?
And finally, your family figured out what you do.
Yes, exactly. Instead of a few photos, you can actually see something, and it's big too. It was great. All my friends were all there as well, so definitely special.
Sounds amazing. What about ideal client?
The clients, yeah, I think the ideal ones are the one who actually appreciate good design and also good lighting. Now, if they understand what that is separate, but at least they know that they need a lighting designer involved in some capacity. So that's probably number one. The second one would be client who could have a little bit more on the budget side too, so we can actually do something a little bit more special or something nicer for us humans.
So do you think there is a difference in the lighting practice between Canada and the rest of North America?
I say, well, Canada is very small. So we are 36, 38 million total. And that's smaller than California in population. So we're very small, and the lighting world is very, very small. So we know everyone, like we can all fit in one conference room, and that's the pretty much the leaders in Toronto and the GTA. So I guess we're not as large as a presence, as a profession. So it is a hard sell on projects. Canadians as total were more conservative in a way for a lot of things. Like we're pretty balanced on a lot of approaches, and that includes, construction projects to healthcare and everything else in between. So it's definitely harder to get on projects. It's not an automatic that every project will have a lighting consultant. We all want that, of course, but it is different. The budgets are much different, and the approaches are difficult sometimes. So we have to actually use less to achieve more, and that's from anything from using less fixtures to do something like facades, for instance. I was mentioning before, heritage facades. There are some projects I got to cut half of the lighting because of the budget itself, just to create something. So that's the challenge, is again doing something that's still very nice and special, but using less. And so that's kind of the approach a lot of the projects is just kind of going through those phases with the clients.
I think there's a lot of that generally everywhere. I suppose rationalization, not just sustainability. Sometimes that's a reason to lower the costs. I suppose it's for both, for sustainability and the energy reasons. But I suppose it is tough, isn't it? I think through all those things, perhaps, lighting design edges towards the science as well as art. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely art and science, and the science part, I think I had to learn a lot more on that portion when I started. The art portion is, sometimes there's just the natural talent of someone on that art portion, and just seeing it again, seeing and understanding what it's doing is definitely, that's the art portion. And the most difficult to demonstrate or present to your client. Even the best architects, like it's how to present let's say a painting that's not even painted yet. I think that's one of my challenges, is trying to make sure they trust me at the end, and then mock up things and show them what it's actually doing. Is definitely beneficial, but it is the more difficult part is selling that artistic side to it. Technically, we all know it's numbers really. It's just mathematical information to meet the everyday codes and requirements. But I do like the art. I do it at home with dimmers all the time. That's my wife, right, Rebecca? She always tweaking things and changing things just to make it, well, maybe not always make it different. It's not never perfect, but just something different.
When you mentioned dimming, I mean, there's a lot of development in the controls in the past decade. Are your designs influenced by technology? Would you say that?
If it's
What's your relationship with the technology?
Yeah, I think it's, well, there's two sides of it. So the dimming question is definitely helping because now it's more of a standard throughout the range of what you want to use. So there's more opportunity to tweak things at the end. Although we try not to use it as the main solution, like throwing anything at it and then start, using the control system to do it. I think that's the wrong way to do it. So that's definitely helping us. On the other side, it's the technology is moving very quickly, and adapting to it is difficult. Sometimes there's just too much information at the end. Your projects are, it's not always a few weeks long, it's years, and things change very quickly. So there's a lot of learning for sure, and that's a lot of technical side. It's all technical side. So the artistic side is using it to your advantage, and then the technical side is learning all those new terms and things, and electricity, electrons, and things that definitely were not taught that in school. It's definitely a more engineered thing, but we rely on the manufacturers really to help us navigate that.
You mentioned sort of an engineering side. I mean, there's a big school of thought, at least in the UK, that there's in any project, you have technical part of the project where engineers can do the lighting, and then the special part where the lighting design is.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think, that's I suppose I sort of can guess the answer, but what would you sort of give as rationale that we want it all?
Yeah, I think it's similar here. It's starting to be similar here where there is a lighting consultant. They'll have someone like myself do the specialty front of house things that really the client or sees, and back of house is generic, and we'll let the engineers work on that. They're typically happy to do that and happy for a specialty specialist doing the more complicated design. So I think, and there's a place for both. There's a place for both. I for sure, as a small, I'm the only one in my firm. So as a single lighting designer, and I know there's many out there, and I think in the US, I met too many small firms we do focus on the specialty side and doing all the corridors and back house. It's better spent our time and brain on the specialty things. So I think it's the same here. It's very similar.
So sort of looking back at your long career, I mean, it's a lot more to do, but just sort of at this point in time, what would you do differently if you were to start now? Is there anything you would change?
That's a hard one. I think
you could give a pass.
Yeah, that's more difficult. Like what to change. I think everything has happened through, from school to earlier in the career with interiors and just, meeting meeting the right person. It's hard to go back with the success I have now to go back and see what else I could have changed. I think later in the career, I was able to do more and be able to, I found the interest basically. I think I wish the aspect of design and lighting and architecture and all kind of that world was a little bit more present in my earlier days in school, especially in a smaller hometown. It's just not present. Like it took me, what is it, 5, 6, almost 7 years after school to learn there's a thing called lighting design. And my mom always talks to me about what happened at home. I was always doing something with lights or finicking with something or building something. So it wasn't new, but that avenue wasn't there when I was younger. So I think it's a wish on more of everyone else that things would be hopefully more available to students and to younger people around.
Would you give any advice if somebody that wants to pursue lighting design now? What advice would you give them, if any? Is there something you strongly feel about? Like, you wish somebody told you?
I would say communication. Really, like how to communicate, and that could be just the spoken word, the written word for sure, because with emails and documentations and forms and things, we really need to learn how to write a little bit better. I know I struggle with that as well. And then I guess the visual arts of some sort really helps, again, that communication portion. Graphically is something that's definitely lacking. I know I benefited from the interiors side, or someone from architecture. Like we understand that visual aspects of graphics. It's very important to make sure things are done correctly when presenting, even though it takes twice as long to create a presentation, but that information goes a long way. So I think one of those, that communication portion would be important. We can learn lighting. I learned lighting later on. I think that's more of the easier part, but the communication portion is definitely something I would tell everybody to work on, to learn a little bit more.
So lots of people are now talking, it's sort of a bit of an IT talk, or social media, whatever, this transfer to sort of the world is not enough, so we're having metaverse now. So if we are all transferring to that place, what as lighting designers, what would be our role in that place? What do you think?
I mean, I know I'm still learning what this whole metaverse is, and the virtual world that people actually go and, I guess, play or live in or experience. I've never experienced it yet, but I did read saw an article or a news program on what they do and how, I guess, you can buy things in the metaverse now for your home. I guess maybe you can buy, that lamp that you always wanted, or something for your house. So I could see that lighting portion is more on the video game or maybe the film industry kind of lighting, which is different from the real world. So it's definitely something that we're going to be looking at. I don't think I'll be transitioning into a metaverse lighting designer anytime. But I'm sure there's going to be something somewhere who's going to be doing that.
Yeah, mix the stars maybe, and no budgets in terms of can have a large quantities potentially. Yeah. Well, I'm sure this has been a really engaging session. Thank you so much, Marcel. don't know whether we got any questions. I know that this is sort of always tough to sort of anybody to follow all these conversations in a real time. It's more like a Netflix type thing, I'd say, that people would do. But I don't know whether we have any questions. I don't think as yet. But I just wonder, what is the sort of a Canada Day tomorrow? Are there any lighting events for that? I mean, is there anything that lighting sort of chipped in those big celebrations?
Yeah, well, in Welland, so it was unveiled that day, and the bridge is kind of schemed in the Canada flag. So that was part of the whole plan for that town. But most of a lot of monuments and buildings are all, red and white throughout. So the CN Tower will be red and white. So that's the extent of kind of the lighting approach, and then of course the fireworks, right? So that's another kind of interesting light fire kind of thing.
Sounds great. Sounds like, so you got a day off tomorrow. Is it national holiday?
It is.
Oh wow, so enjoy. It sounds like a great thing.
Yeah,
so
a long weekend.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm sure many will find it inspiring, and yeah, look forward to meeting you in person. And
yes, we will
have
at
a
lovely conference soon for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll be interviewing I think Randy Burke in a few weeks as well, so we'll see everybody again soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Marcel. Take care. Bye.
This week's Designer by Designer interview was sponsored in part by Lumenpulse. Lumenpulse's DNA is light. Lumenpulse's passion and philosophy is to make indoor and outdoor lighting solutions to better our world. Through proprietary technology, thoughtful and artful design, and an innate business sense, Lumenpulse has become a world leader in the industry. Our light can be found across the globe, and our signature, a quality of light unlike any other, is showing people their world as they've never seen it before. Be sure to join us again for Designer by Designer on July 14th, when Marcel will be interviewing Randy Burkett, FIALD. Registration to join us on Zoom will open soon. And of course, you can always watch any of the Designer by Designer interviews and all of IALD's video content on the IALD YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you again to our sponsors and today's audience for watching. Stay tuned and see you next time.